All right, let's dive into a word we use all the time, but maybe don't always fully grasp. I'm talking about worship. What is it really?
So, if I say worship, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's singing. It's that part of the church service with the bands, the lyrics on the screen. And look, that can be a powerful part of it, for sure. But is that it? Is that the whole picture?
Well, the answer is not even close. The Bible's vision for worship is so much bigger, so much more expansive than just a music set on a Sunday morning. It's something that covers everything, and honestly, it's way more thrilling than we often give it credit for. Okay, so to really get our heads around this massive idea, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to look at the world before Jesus showed up. Let's call it the before picture, just to get our bearings. Back then, you basically had two main models for worship. On one hand, you had the pagan world. Their worship was, well, it was transactional. It was all about, I do this for you, God, so you do this for me. It was driven by fear, by trying to control these unpredictable, angry gods. But then you have Israel. God pulls them aside and sets up something radically different. Their worship isn't based on a transaction, it's based on a relationship, a covenant. The whole point wasn't to control God, but to respond to the one true God who had actually made himself known to them. Now, even with this incredible new way of doing things, there was still a major limitation. Access to God was restricted. You couldn't just, walk right into his presence. Worship had to happen in one specific place, the temple. It had to go through one specific person, a priest, and it always required a specific sacrifice. You see the pattern? There were layers, there were mediators. Direct, unhindered access for everybody? Not yet.
And right into that world of barriers and rituals, Jesus steps onto the scene. And let me tell you, he doesn't just make a few small adjustments. He doesn't just tweak the system. He turns the whole thing upside down. He completely revolutionizes what it means to worship.
This is it. This is the pivot point. In John chapter 4, Jesus is talking to a woman at a well, and he says something that changes everything. A time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth. You hear that? It's not about where you are anymore, which mountain or which city. It's about how you worship. It's a massive shift from the outside to the inside.
So what does that actually look like? Well, think about it this way. First, the temple. The old system needed a physical building, right? That was the special place where God's presence was. Jesus comes and says, I am the temple. I am the true place where humanity and God meet. If you want to find God, you come to me. Okay, what about the sacrifices? Remember, under the old system, you needed a constant flow of them to deal with sin. Jesus steps in and becomes the one perfect once-and-for-all sacrifice. His death on the cross pays the price completely, which means that whole system of animal sacrifices, it's done. It's finished.
And that brings us to the priests. You see how this all connects? If Jesus is the place and Jesus is the sacrifice, it only makes sense that he is also the great high priest. He's the ultimate go-between. And because of him, all those barriers are just gone, torn down. And what does that mean for you and me? It means direct access to God the Father. No other mediator required, period.
Okay, so this is a huge theological shift, right? It's massive. But what does it actually mean for us today? What does worship look like in this after picture, now that Jesus has fulfilled everything? The answer is, well, it's actually pretty simple, but it will change everything about how you see your life. The Apostle Paul just lays it all out for us in his letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 1. He says to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Did you catch that? The sacrifice isn't something you bring to the altar anymore. The sacrifice is you. Your actual, everyday, walking, talking, breathing life. That is the act of worship. So what on earth does a living sacrifice look like in the 21st century? Well, it looks like how you do your job. It's how you treat your family when you're tired. It's in the way you eat, the way you rest, the way you serve the people around you. Suddenly, all the ordinary, even boring parts of your day, they all become sacred spaces, opportunities for worship.
And that right there is the core idea. We have to break out of this mindset that worship is just another box to check. I have work, I have family, I have hobbies, and I have worship for an hour on Sunday. No, the new reality that Jesus ushered in is this. Worship isn't a part of your life. Worship is your life.
Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. If our entire life is meant to be an act of worship, what's the motivation? What's the engine that actually drives this thing?
Well, first, let's be super clear about what it is not. Worship is not a performance. It's not me trying to sing well enough or pray hard enough to get God to do something for me. That's that old transactional model we talked about, and Jesus absolutely blew that out of the water.
Now, true worship isn't a performance, it's a response. It's our entire lives reoriented around the mind-blowing reality of who God is and what He has already done for us in Jesus. It's that simple. He makes the first move. Our entire lives are just the response to His incredible love.
The Bible boils this down so perfectly. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 19, we read, "We love because He first loved us." That's it. That's the logic of the gospel. That's the logic of worship. Why do we do any of it? Because He moved first. Our worship is just the echo bouncing off the canyon walls of His amazing grace. So the question for all of us then isn't, are you going to worship this weekend? The real question is this: how will your life, right now, today, be an act of worship? How will your work, your conversations, your rest be a living sacrifice, a response to what Jesus has already done? Now, what we've talked about here is really just a summary of this incredible topic. If you want to dive deeper, you can find a link to a fuller discussion right there in the description.